Hello and welcome to a new video. Today you're going to take a look at another rank 1 in the world team, this time around from CrescentAngels. Like, if you're a little bit in the scene, you know this player, definitely one of the best players in the world. And we're going to have a team here with Shadow Sableye in the lead. I'm not sure if they're running Powder Snow, but in my opinion Powder Snow does make sense for this team here, because they don't really need the Shadow Claw in my opinion, but yeah, also gives you a little bit more play against something like a Lickitung, so I feel like Powder Snow is kind of appropriate here. Then they're going to have the Deoxys defense as well as the Swampert in the back. They're going to have the normal Swampert in the back, which is, in my opinion, way better than the Shadow Swampert in the current meta. I just sadly don't have a normal Swampert build with good IVs, and I don't want to build one with bad IVs, because what's the point? So I'm currently waiting for another event where we're going to have the pre-evolution of it like somewhere available, so I can finally get a non-Shadow Swampert. But for the current meta, back in the day, basically, like, the Shadow bonus gave you several matchups where you were able to two-shot opponents in the, like, basically with 2 Hydro Cannons, which was really nice. Here, by the way, we're going to encounter Clodsire, and our Shadow Swampert is completely annihilating the opponent. But nowadays, those matchups are kind of gone. Back in the day, for example, one was Skarmory, one was Noctowl, and those 2 Pokemon are gone, so now the normal one is a little bit better than the Shadow variant. Speaking of Shadow variants, we're going to have 2 here in the lead with the Shadow Sandslash versus the opponent's Ninetales. And honestly, against Greninja, I'm not too sure what I'm really supposed to do here. I'm gonna go ahead and go into my Deoxys. Of course, we're going to be okay here, as we're going to have counter against the opponent. And we're going to be able to definitely realign if I want to, but I'm still forced to go for a charge move here, and the opponent can decide if they want to use a shield or let it go, but they decide to lose, just let it go, take the shield advantage. But I'm going to have the switch advantage here, which is going to be nice, especially as I can still reach another Thunderbolt in time. This is doing, I think, a little bit more than the Psycho Boost, but we will see here already that the opponent is clearly in range for also my Sandslash, and they're going to have their own Gligar in the back, which is going to be amazing for me. As we're going to have Powder Snow, we're going to get the opponent super low already with that, and I try to catch a move, which kind of works out and maybe kind of doesn't, because they can, I mean, no, never mind, they still have to go for another charge move anyway. So we have the CMP here, and with this game is basically over already, I think, as they're going to let this move go through. They're only going to have their Ninetales in the back, and yeah, they don't do damage with their charge moves. I can just go for 2 Ice Punches, and that's all it takes, as the opponent is actually going to forfeit now. Moving on, let's take a look at the next opponent. We're going to encounter a Zapdos in the lead. A Shadow Zapdos, which definitely does not appreciate our fast move of Powder Snow as well, as they're going to do super effective damage against the opponent here and gonna get the knockout before they can do anything. So we basically start off with 1 extra Pokemon, and they honestly have such a cool spicy line. They have a normal Glade, basically baiting out a potential answer for Medicham, and then the Chestnut in the back. And honestly, I kind of want to do something similar now after seeing this. I kind of want to have also something with like Glade or something, just to bait out a potential answer for a Medicham, and then they basically encounter something that is not a Medicham. Would be kind of a cool idea, honestly. So I like the idea from the opponent. Of course, it's not really ideal all the time either, but Glade having access to a Leaf Blade as well as close combat is really cool. There's just confusion, kind of sucks in the current meta, to be fair, but here we're gonna see they're gonna go ahead and go for the Leaf Blade. I can just go ahead and go up to 2 Ice Punches, and as Glade is a fairly squishy Pokemon, I'm pretty sure we're going to be fine here, as I can just go for a charge move, and this is going to get the knockout. So good game there to the opponent. A great team though. Moving on, let's take a look at the next one. This is going to be a tricky one. Here, definitely the normal Swampert would be a little bit better, but now they're going to swap out into their Jellicent. And Jellicent is definitely a little bit of an issue for this team, where maybe Shadow Claw would be a little bit better on the alone Sandslash, as Shadow Claw does super effective damage, while of course the Powder Snow does resisted damage. So, fairly certain that they're actually going to most likely run still the Shadow Claw on this Pokemon. But yeah, for at least this matchup, which I actually encountered like I think twice with this team, it's definitely better to have the Shadow Claw over the Powder Snow. Here we see the opponent can still go for a charge move. I'm going to be forced to let this move go through, as we know, of course, they're going to have the Hexorus in the back. I try to get the final shield by the opponent here in this match with my Ice Punch, but let's see if this is going to work out well for us. Ice Punch gonna get the final shield. We can swap out here, as they're gonna most likely go for a Breaking Swipe to lower my attack. And like this, we are going to have a little bit of a trickier matchup against the Registeel. While this is actually normally a decent matchup for me, Basically, what I have to hope for is that I can still use a shield here, go for a Thunderbolt, and swap out into my Sandslash onto their next charge move. This is basically the only way for me to win this game. Of course, we're gonna get debuffed here immediately as well, but we can now see that we can just go for the Thunderbolt against the opponent, get them low, and I try to swap out. But sadly, it will not work out in time, as they can go for the Zap Cannon, knock me out here, and our Alolan Sandslash is nowhere to go. Moving on, let's take a look at the next opponent. We're going to encounter the Lanturn in the lead. Here, I'm also not too sure what I want to do. Of course, I can just go for the Drill Run, which is going to be super effective and most likely going to get a shield from the opponent or a lot of damage. But yeah, I'm going to be able to just catch the move onto my Deoxys defense, which I feel like is a decent idea here in general, especially as the opponent decides to swap out into the Nidoqueen. Our entire team is very decent against the Nidoqueen, so I'm not really too worried about it. I wanted to see if I can go for 2 Psycho Boosts, but sadly this is not the case. So 1 Psycho Boost it is, and 1 shield is coming up, allowing me to go back into my Sandslash and also go for an Ice Punch, which should get the knockout against the opponent's Shadow Nidoqueen here, as I decide to use a shield, which does make sense as they already have the energy for an Earth Power, which they are not going to use. They're gonna go for the bait here, but I can go for my next charge move, and like this, the Nidoqueen gonna be gone. We have a shield advantage, but of course we have to see what they're going to run in the back, because they're still going to have the Lanturn. I decide to swap out into my Swampert, and they deciding to stay in here. I'm gonna let this move go through, hoping that I can still have something in the back that I can beat with my Swampert, and it's going to be the Clodsire. Earthquake is coming through, and you see already the opponent can still survive that, which is absolutely wild. They can still go for a charge move here. Stone Edge coming through. We're going to be able to shield this move up, but yeah, the opponent going to still lose battle. But how wild how bulky this Pokemon is. Moving on, we're going to encounter here the Alolan Sandslash against us as well, and I decided to go for my Swampert as a Say-Swap in this case. I feel like the Say-Swap is kind of, yeah, more like a fluid version here, because you can just decide if you want to go for the Swampert or if you want to go for the Deoxys. Both of the Pokemon have 2 hard answers in the meta, with like Deoxys the Sableye, as well as for the Swampert the any kind of Grass type, mainly Superior. So there are going to be some answers, of course, but yeah, again, it really depends on what the opponent has in the bag. Neither of those answers are like that common in the bag. Usually Superior is, a lot of times at least, in the lead. I feel like nowadays it kind of shifted towards the backline as well, but here, for example, luckily we didn't go into our other Pokemon as a safe, our Deoxys, because they're going to have the Sableye in the bag. But I decided to swap out into my Sandslash, and they're actually running the Medicham there in the back now as well, which is a little bit awkward, because now I am going to be in a scenario where I have to hope that I basically gonna hit a Psycho Boost against the opponent's Sableye, and they have a move stored, and now it's kinda a guessing game. And I know that the opponent swapped out earlier than I did, so I decided to just go for it and go for the Psycho Boost, thinking that they would try to snipe me. Did not work out for me, and like this I had to try to catch a move, didn't work out either, and so I forfeit. That was a little bit of an awkward one, because it was definitely still winnable depending on like how the opponent played. I just predicted something from the opponent which did not happen, but this is fine. Definitely an interesting way to playing out. I wouldn't really say it's like my fault or anything like this for that one. There are games I of course throw, but yeah, in this case it's just like trying to guess what the opponent's next step is. And here we're going to be able to just go ahead and go for an Ice Punch against the opponent's Sableye, which is kind of nice. I can catch a move onto my Swampert as the opponent decides to go for the foul play. They decide to undercharge it by quite a bit, and also allow me to go for some more damage with my own Swampert without basically doing damage with their own fast move, showcasing me already that they're going to have a Grass type in the back and they just want more farm, which is fine for me. I can go for 2 Hydro Cannons, which is the best way I could have played this, allowing me to get the opponent insanely low, get an extra Powder Snow in here. I'm going to let this move go through as we're already a shield behind, and oh, never mind, we actually had the same shield counter here, as you're going to be able to go for an Ice Punch against the opponent's Charizard. We're gonna get them low, and as you can see here, I'm going to decide to use a shield against the opponent's Charizard. They're gonna go for the Blast Burn, and I'm still going to reach my Thunderbolt in time, allowing me to get the final shield from the opponent, but also I still do damage with counter, and you see already, the Charizard is kinda getting lower. And we can still survive a Blast Burn. Even though my IVs are horrible on my Deoxys, I can still reach my Psycho Boost, and this is all it takes to knock out the opponent's Superior, winning us this game, and we can move on to the next one. Let's see what we're going to encounter here. We're going to encounter the Sandslash against a Lanturn again. Again, a fairly neutral matchup for us. We can go for the Drill Run. It's like really depending on what you want to play here, and also what the opponent wants to play here. Because it's an obvious play to go straight for the Drill Run against a Lanturn. The opponent could decide to try to catch something, you can decide to catch something. It really depends. You're going to basically get to the move at the same pace as the opponent gets to their move. So Here we can still just go for the drill run, gonna get a ton of damage onto them, and I can try to swap out onto my Deoxys, which does not work out. Or does it? Because actually we're gonna get out the Superior. And this is actually really good for us as we are very weak against this Pokemon in the back with my Swampert. So as long as they don't have another Grass type in the back, we should be kind of fine with our Swampert, which is a good thing to know. As we can go for the Psycho Boost here against the opponent, this will get some more damage onto them, and I can go for another Psycho Boost afterwards even. They definitely did not expect that I would still get there. And they're also gonna go for a Charge Move here, which is not going to be enough to knock me out because it's just the Aerial Ace, and we can just barely survive, knock them out, have the Gligar against our Sandslash. They can go for a Charge Move here, but I screw up the game. I did completely forget that the opponent had that much energy on the Lanturn, and like this, I am in a position where from the Gligar, a Shadow Dig is going to knock out my Swampert. I am not at 2 Charge Moves yet, and so this is a tough one, because sadly, mainly because I threw, to be fair. If I just swapped out into my Swampert against the opponent's Lanturn, I would have been fine. I'm going to lose this game here. Good game to the opponent, but badly played by me. Moving on to the next game, we're going to encounter here the Medicham in the lead. We're going to have also a swap now into the Golbat, which is actually kind of fine for us, as the Golbat is going to not appreciate the Hydro Cannons, giving us already a shield advantage, and we can just go on and let this move go through, as they are going to go for the bait. Amazing for us, as we can just go for another Hydro Cannon here, trying to get them low enough that I can farm them down with just my powders now, and this is going to be nearly in the red health already, as they're forced to go for another charge move. This is amazing, as the the Poison Fangs coming through here, I can just swap out into my Alone Sandslash, and like this, we will see the Poison Fang coming through again. I can go for the full farm, I have a move stored now, and also the opponent going to have their Swampert in the back. This is looking fairly okayish for us, but still not that great. I will be able to just go up and go for some Psycho Boost against the opponent. They're most likely going to use their first shield now, as never mind, they don't. So like this, I can just go for another Psycho Boost and try to get rid of the opponent's Swampert, which does not work out here for us, but we can just go ahead and use a shield. And luckily, they decide to go for the Earthquake. This was a huge mistake by the opponent. They should have tried to go for 2 Hydro Cannons, but like this, I can just go for the knockout. And I can also stay in for a little bit, go up to the Psycho Boost, swap out, catch the move onto my Sandslash. It's going to be either the Psychic or the Ice Punch. It's going to be the Ice Punch here. And I can go for the Drill Run to do some decent damage against them, as this is going to go through and going to put them below half health, allowing me to put them kind of into range for the Psycho Boost, but just barely not. So they have a ton of energy. Hopefully, I'm not going to get two-shotted by an Ice Punch. It does not look like it, so I can go for my Psycho Boost, and this is going to do a ton of damage. Not enough, but a few counters is all it takes to win this game. So let's move on to the final game for today's video. We're going to encounter another Lanturn here. This is going to be again a little bit of an awkward matchup, depending on what the opponent wants to do, depending on what you want to do. It's a very neutral lead here, as you do super effective damage, but the opponent just does a little bit more damage with the fast move, as well as just being so bulky. You know, Lanturn is annoying to deal with. So I decided to this time around just go ahead and swap into my Deoxys, as the opponent decides to stay in for a little bit and now swap out into the Sableye. So this is not really looking too good for us. We can still go for a charge move here, but I decided to go for the Psycho Boost here, which was a little bit of a mistake, as like this, the opponent is just going to be able to farm me all the way down. I should have went up to the Thunderbolt at least, forcing the opponent to throw, but they can go for the foul play now, and I make another mistake here as well. I should have not went straight for the charge move here, as I did not know, to be fair, that the opponent would win CMP. I feel like it's a very close one. Honestly, definitely some stuff that I still have to learn a little bit as well with like those matchups. It's just a little bit the awkward thing about playing, always different Pokemon every single time. You just not really get used to anything. So here we're going to have the Noctowl, which is, as said in the beginning, one of the matchups which you're actually going to be better off using your Shadow Swampert compared to the normal Swampert. But my opponent makes a great play here by catching the move onto their Lanturn, and I am forced to go for another charge move afterwards. And as the opponent going to have a Surf Stored, we are going to be way too low for us to win this game. So this is going to be it basically for this video. The opponent going to be able to just win this game just slowly here by knocking out my Sandslash here. But yeah, that's going to be it for today's video. If you enjoyed it, feel free to leave a like, subscribe if you haven't already, and check out the videos on the screen. So I see you then. Bye bye.